Hello, Canada. This is Munich. How are you, Shreya?
I'm good. How are you? Currently in
Yes, thank
Taiwan, though, but yes.
Shreya, we are so happy to have you here because you are, just not an actor or producer or even an activist. You are Wonder Woman.
So kind.
So you did this movie, Unity. Please tell us about it.
Oh my gosh, Unity was the most beautiful film I have had the pleasure of directing, but I don't think it's just my film. I think it's a global film and a global effort to talk about what unifies us as people. Because during COVID-19, before it came to Canada, a lot of my friends and colleagues around the world were dealing with the pandemic before Canada was. And I was like, oh my God, this is so sad. A lot of people were going through mental health issues because they were left alone in their houses. And I was like, okay, well, yes, it is a very lonely experience, but I think everyone in the world is going through that together. And that unifies us because anyone that you meet, you could talk to them about it and they will understand you, which is where unity came about. Because I was like, let me talk to someone in Armenia. Let me talk to someone in London. Let me talk to someone in like US. Let me talk to someone in Japan. Everyone was feeling the same. They were all in their houses, cooking, eating, like reading a lot of books and things. But what I noticed when I got more and more into it was people from Kenya, Gaza, Venezuela, Dubai, all of those people started sending me videos, which is when I realized that yes, the experience unifies us, but I think because of our social economic backgrounds, how there's disparities between first world countries and how they dealt with COVID and third world countries and how they dealt with COVID. So the documentary kind of took a middle turn in the middle, talking about how hard it was for certain countries to deal with COVID. But yes, the whole there was more than 100 people that were involved. We called it Unity. Love spreads faster than a virus, and it kind of unified us in that experience. It was just very grateful for that project and everyone I met around the world, and you guys as well.
Yeah, as you just told us, more than 100 people from all over the world. I think about 66 countries were involved. I can understand the idea, but what helped you to realize it? What have you done to find the people, for example?
Oh, the network. Yes. So I'm part of the under 30, like Forbes under 30 community, which is a global group. And some people from that group wanted to do something big. They wanted to do this thing called COVID Aid, which is COVID and the music, like a music festival type of thing to raise money for COVID. That didn't come about. And they made a group. And in that group where other people were added from around the world, they were entrepreneurs and like people who are social activists, and they all got added to this one group. So the solid 100, more than 100 people were in this group. So when North America is sleeping, everyone in Europe is working. When Europe is like, it was kind of like a thing that we really tried, but then Global Citizen, they did it way bigger than us, so we couldn't do anything. But during that time, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to maybe do it with like 10 countries. But I ended up meeting people in actually Munich in Germany. Two of my closest friends that I have still yet to meet, they helped me. So they're like, why don't I take like 7 countries? And her partner in Munich was like, I'm going to take the rest of the countries. And then someone in Armenia, the Global Shapers community was also involved. So then they were like, okay, I'm going to get the Global Shapers. This guy in Armenia can get like 7 countries. And then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to reach out to these countries. And my friend from Munich, Mihal Hida, she had a huge thing to do with this documentary too. Do you want to get to 100 countries? And I was like, oh my goodness, this is insane. And it kind of just became like a global thing. And a lot of people put in a lot of effort to connect us to people around the world for it.
After finishing the movie, did you ever seen the people in real life?
Very, I had the opportunity to meet certain people in real life that I met them around in Botswana, like in last year for the summit that we had, but not everybody. Though I'm very close to Mihal and Claudio, they finally moved to New York this year from Germany, so I can't wait to meet them in person. But I did get to meet very few people, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them.
Please tell us about how Forbes, for example, could help you. I mean, you are one of these people who were elected by 30 under 30 by Forbes. Maybe you can explain what kind of wonderful award is it?
Oh my gosh. So Forbes Under 30 has no affiliation with the Unity, but Forbes Under 30 introduced me. So I am one of the listers under the media category because of my first documentary that was about domestic human trafficking. And I had helped pass like a bill in Ontario and all these things. And since then I've worked on other projects. But that community, so once I became on the list, I was introduced to other people who are in the community as well, who are list makers, who are also doing like great things in their own industries. And that kind of formed a global group of ours. And I've met a lot of the listers in different summits. So I met them in Berlin the first time, then I met them two times in Detroit and in Africa, like Botswana last year where I was speaking. So it's a really big global group of entrepreneurs and like executives and people who are doing really cool things in their own field. And that's how I got connected to them. And because of that group, I individually have worked with them on Unity.
For young filmmakers with visions like you, what would be your advice? What's really important to network, for example, or is it awards? Is it money? What is it?
Mhm. I think film is a very expensive thing back in the day. I didn't have that kind of money, so I just picked up a camera. I learned it all by myself, and that was when I started. I think that today people have their very solid cameras that can shoot really good things on their phone. And I think that once, yes, exactly, like your iPhone, it's such a
Yeah.
solid, it shoots in 4K. It's wild how good the cameras are. But I don't think anyone needs a DSLR if they're really passionate on telling stories. And I think with storytelling, I think we need to be very intentional in what we are putting out in the world. Because I think as young storytellers, we have the opportunity to take the narrative in our hand versus put it in rich filmmakers' hand. Like back in the day, all the funding still kind of does, but all the funding goes to like really big directors and really big producers. And the nepotism is going on. And I think that I have dealt with that. And I think that people before me have dealt with that. And I think that it still exists, but I also think that things are changing because us as filmmakers, if we're intentional, we put the right thing forward, we can be the voice of the new film industry. I think we have that power. So if anyone's listening who are young, you have this chance that you have like we never had before. There's so many resources, so many ways of connecting with people on social media to make films. Like I don't think there's any excuse that we have anymore if someone was really passionate about telling a story.
Yes, but Shreya. So I imagine now young filmmakers with this, extraordinary cameras in their hands, and finally they have their film. But then there's still this challenge about the marketing.
Mhm.
So what's the next step? What have you done?
Yeah, so marketing has been always like a lot of money goes into marketing. Actually, when I was like learning about film and stuff, they said that your budget is 100%, out of which I think 70% needs to go into marketing, and then the rest of the budget goes into making a film. I never had that. My first documentary, I didn't even know what marketing was. I didn't even know what shooting was, editing was. I just was passionate about telling this woman's story who was a survivor of domestic human trafficking and it wasn't recognized in my country. I like shot, I edited, I did everything by myself, like a one woman show. It's like, oh, you had a small team. No, it was just me. And I
Wow.
did that. Yeah, it was wild. Like I did that it was a short documentary for 26 minutes, which I had to self-release because no one wanted to showcase it because it was a gray area in Ontario. I took up a 9 to 5 job for the first time in my life. I collected some money and I like rented a theater
Hmm.
and I released the film. And I was like, okay, what if 5 people watch it? I don't care. Like I didn't know anything. And I think because I did that, I invited certain people and it had a really small review about it online.
Hmm.
And that was caught like an MPP called Lori Scott saw reviews about that online and tweeted it to my MPP in my city. And she was the one who helped pass the C-96 Girl Next Door Act, which recognizes domestic human trafficking. So that was insane. It happened the same year that I released the film. And then since that time, I extended the film to 50 minutes long. Again, not knowing how to market it. Again, not knowing what is going to happen with this film. I just knew that I needed to get it out and make it longer. And so she was in it, a political figure. We already had a survivor. And then I interviewed a journalist, again, by myself. It might not be the most cinematography like looking, but I think that a lot of people resonated with it because of the story. That longer film because I started posting about it in social media, and I don't have that many followers, but because I started talking about it, it has reached to national security.
Wow.
Toronto International Film Festival found reviews about the longer one, which was, I was doing community screenings. I wasn't even doing it in theaters. It was not in film festivals or anything. I was doing so many community screenings for free to showcase what domestic human trafficking looks like. And Toronto, and someone in this, I forget the name of it, but she wrote a massive review about the film. And Toronto International Film Festival found reviews about it, messaged me on Instagram, and they connected it to the Civic Action Summit, where civic action leaders and social workers and police officers and not FBI, sorry, national security have used the film to educate the rest of the community. And now it's become like a global piece. So a lot of people around the world has seen it. And so from what I'm trying to get at about marketing is that, yes, it's hard. It's hard. But now that I have that out, and I use social media with very less followers to just talk about it, it's hard. It's not going to be easy because of not having the kind of budget. But since then, now that my company is incorporated, we have been able to get bigger and larger funds. Not as big as like a lot of millions of dollars, but since the time I started till now, I can say that I've successfully able to beg better funding to be able to cater to my next project.
So what do you think, classical cinema screenings, are they still useful?
I think they're useful to have, for my experience, I think having community screening has, and also I'm an impact, so it might not work for maybe like a short film. I do not know. I think if you're, because we just produced a short film, and that the way we plan to do marketing for what we already have started is by submitting it to short film festivals around North America, because that film deserves to be like showcased in film festivals. And I think that's the best way to get your movie out. It is a little pricey, but it's better to do it that way. And distribution is a little bit easier with short films, where you can like sell it to like Air Canada, like airplanes and stuff, right? But with documentaries, it's always really hard. And I think community screenings, because I'm an impact with merge with organizations, has really helped push the word forward. And I think that's why like all these massive organizations of police officers, social workers, and everyone were involved in the film.
Let's talk about the Freedom Dance, which is a clip. You know, I mean, finally, it's a music clip. It's not a real movie. I guess not bad of our spectators. Maybe they've seen it, because I think it's about 2.5 million clicks on YouTube. Please tell us, what was the idea behind, and what have you learned from your work before, from Unity?
Oh my gosh, that was a beautiful project. I think Freedom Dance hit 1.2 million views in 2 weeks of it being released. I don't know what it is now, but it went viral. And I was hired to be on Freedom Dance as the director after Unity came out, because Freedom Dance was it was a very special project. I was in Canada when I was hired from India, from this newly like formed DJ, and she wanted about 7 to 8 countries, and she wanted influencers, actors, like big actors, like social media influencers and activists, like all these people be part of it. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And I'm like, what is your goal for it? She's like, she saw Unity, and she's like, I just want something like this for the music video. And that music video, basically, we wanted to showcase what freedom looks like when you're not, because freedom doesn't always come from being outside. I think freedom comes from within, and what makes you feel free, even if you're locked up during lockdown. So I sat with each of the people in Freedom Dance, and I was like, most of the people actually in Freedom Dance, and I asked them this question, like, what sets you free? And they were like, oh, painting and all these things. And I was like, okay, why don't we paint? One of the girls, she's a fitness guru, right? Like, she's known for her fitness. So I'm like, you know what? I've seen you do fitness all the time on television. I've seen you do it all the time. What is different about you? Like, and I started asking her questions about her personal life. I gave them a questionnaire to fill out for our meeting before we meet. I can read through them, ask them questions, because I was trying to like dig deep than just something that is, oh, I like to work out. I'm like, no, but like, why? And so her thing, she's gone through some stuff in her life. I'm like, well, what sets you free? It was painting. And no one's ever seen her paint. So I was like, oh, is it possible to get really big, like canvases and big paints and she can just splash it, like just express herself that way. And then this other actor that we knew, he acts all the time. He's traveling all the time. He's like always in front of the camera. He is such a phenomenal actor. I'm like, hey, like right now, like your work has slowed down completely. Like what sets you free? And he goes, reading like plays. I'm like, no, but that's acting. Like okay, that is you. That's your career. Like, but what sets you free? And he's like, oh, and that we dug deep, and it was about him spending time with his cat, which he doesn't get to do when he's working. And he's like, this is really calming. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do that. Let's just, he's like, I love being with my cat. I love like having plants around me. I love watering my plants. I'm like, that sets you free. Let's just do that. So each of them had a story to tell. And that was what Freedom Dance became. And when that released, it was people were making videos from around the world on Freedom Dance. Like we got one guy from Greece, we got people from around the world, and it was such a cool thing to experience. Rolling Stones India reported about it too. And I was like, what is happening right now? But that was really cool. It's like a unity, but now in a music video.
Yeah. So as I told you, and as you know, I guess there are some people who haven't seen it yet. They can do it right now. But my last question to ask you again, what were your learnings from realizing unity, and what maybe something you changed by working for Freedom Dance?
As a director, I learned that we have the resources to do anything in the world because of the digital platform that we have. I think directing over Zoom, I don't think anyone has ever heard of that. And I feel like I was basically the first one in March of 2020 trying to do this. And everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm literally doing Zoom direction and also telling cinematographers how to shoot things. And it was just a wild time. But as a human being, I learned for Unity that no matter where you are in the world, what language you speak, what culture you come from, we all have this compassion, and we all are filled with empathy if you really look deep down. And I think that no matter what it is, we all one blood as human beings. And with Freedom Dance, oh my gosh, I was so cool to meet people from around the world who are doing great things, and to like direct them and to really learn about how unique people are. And it's so, I love, like, that has changed the way I even talk to people, because everyone has a story. There is a, like, I don't think your career can define you, because of Freedom Dance, there were a lot of celebrities that were part of it. But I don't think a career should define you. I think the people, you really see the rawness of people in that video. And I think that is what is beautiful about human beings.
Oh, thank you. These are really inspiring words. So what are your next plans, Shreya?
So we have a short film that we directed called Unibrow with an Iranian filmmaker. So currently we're going to release it end of this year in a film festival, which is already in a film festival, but we're also trying to do a film festival run. We applied for a lot of film festivals currently. And then we have another show called Get Up Aisha that is about to be released. It's a web series for a streaming platform. It's about to be released in January or February of 2024. We are in post-production right now. We are also currently writing a show called Layla is Relevant, which is much further ahead. It used to be an idea for a web series, but we got funded to do like a writer's room for 30 minutes. So currently we're in the writing stage for that as well. So it's been quite a busy time, but we're really excited for what's to come.
As we are, Shreya. So thank you so much for the time you gave us.
Oh my God, thank you for inviting me again. It's always so beautiful to talk to you guys, honestly. Such warm people, and just like very important work that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to us.